Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sol.
Well, we've reached the end of Ted Lasso, allegedly. Um, and it is not sitting right. um, not just because it's allegedly the end, but I've been largely a fan of season three. I know a lot of people have been mixed on it. This finale, though, it's been a running gag on this channel of seasons being worried about a season not sticking the landing. We said that
Yeah.
with Obi-Wan, with Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, Andor. Of a lot of those, I think Andor's the only one that really truly did stick the landing. Um, and with a lot of the shows we've watched, it has been that case. And again, this is just another one that kind of is feeding into that. And this isn't just a season finale. Like this is from everything we can tell, this is a series finale.
Yeah.
If they're doing a season four, they I don't know how it's going to go, but for all intents and purposes, this is a series finale, and for a series finale, what a misfire. Oof.
Yeah. I still don't know how I feel about it. I'm kind of like in there's a few things that I didn't like. There's a few things that they missed the landing with. And then I'm like, I guess I'm okay with this or okay with that. And it kind of just left a feeling of being unsatisfied, which is a word I've used on a lot of things that we've reviewed um, this season and last season is the word unsatisfied, where it's like, yeah, it's fine, it's okay, but
Mhm.
it's not giving me the, oh my God, this is amazing that Ted Lasso this season and just throughout its run has given me.
Yeah, the series finale is not when you want to start introducing things. It's when you want to start wrapping things up. And there were things that were introduced in this episode. And I was like, this is not the time. This is not the time for new subplots. This is the time for putting bows on shit. And suddenly it's Rebecca's thinking about wants to sell the club. Suddenly it's love triangle with Jamie and Roy and Keeley. So
Yeah.
okay, sure,
Yeah,
I
which is
guess.
which is something we've praised about this season, about the
Yeah.
fact that how easy it would have been to they made us think that when Jamie goes finds out that they've broken up, that he's gonna go talk to Keeley, and he actually goes and talks to Roy and is supportive to Roy, and like there we're like, oh, it could have been so easy for them to do the whole love triangle thing, and the fact that they didn't, we were praising them for, and then out of nowhere they do it in the last episode. And to
Yeah.
me, that kind of it doesn't sit right for several things, because I've loved Jamie's arc from season 1 to now, just like how amazing of a person he has become. If you would have told me in season 1 that I like Jamie would be one of my favorite characters, I'd just go, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So, and not that it seemed out of character, but it seemed weird that it wasn't going with who he was being this season. Because even then, when he shows up and like tells Keeley he's sorry for the nude leak,
Mhm.
kind of like there was a chance there too for him to be, because he knows that they're broken up, and yet he each chance that he had to go after Keeley this season, he chose not to until
Mhm.
this episode.
Yeah.
And with Roy, kind of it was weird for me that like he tells her he loves her and then they sleep together. And to me that's like telling the audience they're going to end up together.
They're back
Even
together.
yeah. And then they go, "Oh, we're just friends." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, they're being that coy kind of thing, but by the last episode they're going to do that whole like, that grand kiss that you have with like the main couple of of any like long-standing series. You have that in the last episode. And that didn't happen. And if they would have given more hints with like Jamie throughout the season, I would have been okay with her with Jamie. But the fact that they did this whole thing and the love triangle, and she basically told both, we're to assume that she told both of them. We don't see it, but we're to assume that she told them both no. It it's weird. Like if that would have happened earlier in the season where they fight for her and she tells them no and she becomes an independent woman who like chooses for herself and chooses her own happiness over choosing a man, that'd be different. But to like kind of have that kind of whole thing happen just in one, a love triangle and a woman choosing herself over a man all in one episode instead of laying the foundation for it for the whole season, that was weird.
Yeah, it and somebody I was talking to yesterday was like, "Oh, well, they've dropped this hint and that hint throughout the season." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's poor storytelling." I don't think those are that the things they brought up were at. Somebody brought up that like Jamie going to her place was part of that story. Like I'm like, I don't think it is,
No.
but if it was, that's just bad writing. If that was meant to be, if the writers intended that to be an indication that there was this thing forming, then that's just bad writing.
Yeah.
But I also don't buy that.
That was him apologizing because he's a better person now.
Yeah, that's all that was. And for him to then take that and use that as leverage against Roy in this argument they have at the bar made no
Yeah.
sense to me.
If you took that argument out, I loved the scene that they did together if it wasn't part of Ted Lasso this season.
Yeah,
It was
and
great scene work.
yeah, it also goes to like an issue I've had with throughout this whole season with the writing in regards to Roy. I really feel like they lost the plot a little bit with how to handle Roy this season, particularly
Mm,
with him not being with Keely anymore. Because when you go to the episode where the video gets leaked and all that, Roy was an idiot in that episode.
yeah.
He was an uncharacteristic idiot. Like when he asks her the like, "Who'd you make that for?" question, I'm like, Roy's not that dumb.
Although, I guess from a woman's perspective, I'm like, "Yeah, that tracks, because that's how
Yeah.
men are."
Well, no, the
And men
point
are
is
that stupid.
it's not that guys in general wouldn't ask a stupid question like that. Roy, in particular, from everything we've seen from his character, is smarter than that.
Yeah,
And that's why when you get into this episode where he's like, I've spent the last year trying to change who I am and be a different person, I was like, when? When did any of that happen? When was there ever any exploration of Roy changing the kind of person he's trying to be that's
yeah.
not been a thing. That's never been
Nah,
a thing.
Roy has always been Roy.
Yeah,
He's gotten Roy has always been that person that outside, like, seems like a grizzly bear, but inside is a teddy bear.
yeah,
That has been Roy all 3 seasons,
yeah,
and that was Roy this season, and I guess, like, maybe you could say him and Jamie, but that's really more on Jamie's side than
yeah.
on Roy's side. Roy's still the same.
Like
It was Jamie who changed.
we've seen growth from Roy, like as a coach, but it just happened organically. It wasn't like it was a subplot in the show
Mm,
that
yeah,
Roy was struggling with changing himself and be. It's like we haven't explored that. We've seen him grow just through regular scenage, but it's just been stuff that you can witness
yeah,
up front. It hasn't been just a thing.
a
So
self-reflection.
yeah, so for
Well, you
him
would say Rebecca had if Rebecca would have said that, then it'd be different because that's we've
100%.
seen Rebecca doing that. We're not seeing
Yeah. It's
Roy
been
do that.
it was a established part of her narrative throughout this season was same with Ted, was exploring who they were and what it is they wanted and what they wanted for themselves for the future. With Roy, we never got any of that. So for it to be this big dramatic moment with the Diamond Dogs in this episode, I was just like, what? When? I've been trying to do this all year. When? We haven't seen it. So I don't know if it's a problem of like stuff getting cut and DVD extras, guys, but yeah, we didn't see any of that. And it just goes back to when we started the season with him and Keely breaking up. I had a
Mhm.
really bad feeling about it because I felt like it was a dumb move narratively, and it took them way too long to resolve it. And then when they did resolve it, they blew it all up again. So
Yeah,
I it's frustrating. It's a lot of very frustrating choices were made, and this is just Roy Keely and Jamie. We haven't even
yeah,
gotten to the other stuff yet.
yeah,
Uh,
and it would be I would have liked it more if he told her after telling her that he loved her and you have just that smile kind of and then she goes to open the door for Rebecca, if
mhm.
he never came down. If kind of cuz that would have made, "Oh, we're just friends now." Cuz like if you've ever been in a second chance relationship with someone
Mhm.
where like you're giving you've broken up with them and you're giving them a second chance, you don't immediately fall back into it kind of thing.
Yeah,
And because you now they have hurt you, so you're now more cautious with them. And it would have, I guess, made more narrative sense to me if if that never happened and then the next episode they're there in Manchester and she's sitting and they're like, "Oh, it's nice to see you two sitting next to each other. Oh, we're just friends." Kind of like in that and just had that be kind of
yeah,
them just being friends, but then the last season her making a decision whether it's to decide to be with Roy or decide to be with no one
yeah,
or leaving it open-ended because I'm fine with a season finale leaving stuff open-ended so that way you have something to be like, "Hey, do you think they ended up together? Do you think she did something else or that?" Because like then that's something a water cooler talk that you could have with your friends and stuff like that and what we have here. So,
mhm,
but to they left it open-ended, but in a bad way, where they could have left it open-ended in a good way.
yeah. They left it open ended with no direction. It's not like they left it unresolved, but you can kind of see where it's headed. I
Yeah,
have no idea. And for them to
yeah,
pick the penultimate episode, last week's episode, to start exploring whether or not they're gonna truly get back together, it's like this is something you do halfway through the season. You don't do
yeah,
this with one episode left. That
yeah,
it again, it goes back to like they took way too damn long because once they break up in the first episode this season, that's kind of it. She's like they don't have any real interaction, honestly, except for occasionally an awkward hello goodbye. It,
yeah.
it's just kind of like okay, cool, they're just done. She's off with Jack, and he's flirting with the teacher again. By the way, another thing that never went anywhere. Um,
Yeah, that would I was fine with that, but it would have been interesting if there was more of that teacher because I liked her because there
yeah,
was chemistry between him and that teacher the first time.
sure,
So that would have been an interesting exploration. Even if like he didn't date her, but we had more of Phoebe
yeah,
and him like dropping Phoebe off and having a little flirtation with the teacher.
yeah,
Like that would have been like if they sprinkled that like every few episodes he's dropping Phoebe off and has a flirtation with the teacher, but
yeah, something.
that would have been a something narratively, like, cool, I guess, I don't know.
But that's kind of that kind of goes back to like so much time with Roy this season has been spent on just him figuring out how he feels about Keely and their relationship, not himself.
Yeah.
So when the episode ends with him going to see the therapist who's now back finally after 8 episodes, we
Yeah.
she just disappeared this season. We had the one episode where where Ted kind of talked himself through a panic attack, and then we never see her again.
Yeah.
When he was visiting with his mom, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been going to a therapist. That's helped a lot." I'm like, "Have you?" Because I haven't seen that in a while. Kind of feels like you just stopped going there, buddy. Um, and so for her to now like get hired as Richmond's head of mental health, and now Roy is starting to see her, I was like, again, where out of nowhere, where this not this wasn't. It's not like she was out of the job and was looking for a new position, or because when she left in season two, she just left. There was never explanation as to why she was leaving. She was just leaving. Uh,
And it was pretty much because her contract had ended
right.
with Richmond, and then she had a new contract with another team.
Is that what? Okay, I couldn't remember if
Yeah,
that's what it was, but
because
still,
I
it's
remember Ted was trying to guess who she was, contracted out and which team
oh,
she was
I
working with.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and she wouldn't I think she said lacrosse, but she gave the sport, but she wouldn't give the team.
okay.
Yeah.
Even so, like for her
Mm.
to have like she was in the first episode this season
Yeah.
when we saw her getting laid. Good for you.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's weird too, is, like, most that we've seen of her is one of the scenes is her, like,
getting laid,
getting laid.
getting some dick. Good for you, girl. Get that dick. Uh, get
Okay.
get get some, girl. Um, and then for her to come, but again, it feels like they were in this episode. It feels like they were resolving issues that were never an issue. Like,
Yeah.
and I was, mm, it's especially frustrating because there are issues from this season that were very poorly resolved. Um, I've been very vocal that I do not like how I did not enjoy at all how they've handled Nate's redemption arc, especially with this episode where he's just back now. He's back and everyone's cool.
I
He's back and everyone's cool. Everything's fine.
I disagree with you,
Okay, that's
and
fine.
this is yeah,
It's more
this
my
is
hang up.
where yeah, this is your hang up, this has never been my hang up. I've really enjoyed Nate's redemption. Um, I think the episode of him being depressed at his family's house and then playing the violin and then having that conversation with his father was so beautiful. It was a beautiful episode, really getting into him. His relationship with his girlfriend is a really good one. The fact too, we get a little bit of Beard's backstory there
That was
when
great.
he's like, "I'm gonna forgive you for
For
Ted."
Ted. Yeah.
Um, and
What did
him
for you, what Ted did
saying,
for me.
like, Monday, 10 a.m. And also we get when, Isaac and Colin and, the kick boy, Will,
Will.
go to the restaurant to ask him to come back and said, "The team voted on it." And because too, the way the team is, being under Ted, how, like, they've transformed into, like, just a group of just amazing men who have a high emotional intelligence, which
Sure.
is not the case of a you would say with a large group of men. Usually there's very low emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
But this that the team already said they're okay with it. And when the team I feel like these men, if they weren't okay with something, they would say it. They would communicate it. So all of them said they were we get that all of them voted on it and are okay with it. We know from the beginning that Ted's okay with it. We know from just the speaking between everyone else, even Roy saying, "Yeah, he's good at the things I'm not." Everyone's cool with it except for Beard. And Beard was the last one, and we got that scene with Beard. Then I'm perfectly fine with him being back and the way they've done stuff. What I found weird but kind of funny was that he was the assistant kit man now, where I was thinking he'd come back as an assistant coach. And what I know you predicted Roy being the coach at the end. I think it would have been better for Nate to be the coach at the end. And I guess this is just because of my football knowledge of like he's tactically a better coach than Roy. He knows the game on a mental level better than Roy. Roy might have been the athlete who played the game, but Nate is the person that knows the game better. And that Roy became the head coach instead of Nate, just, I don't know, doesn't make sense to me, where Nate would be the one that I'd say, yeah, he's head coach material because he's already proved it with West Ham.
So I'm going to try and go through the list and respond
Yeah.
in order. So here's to I'll kind of go in reverse order. So as far as the Roy thing goes, since season one, Ted has been paramount in trying to teach Roy how to be a good leader. And when you look at Ted's role as the manager of the team, his job wasn't so much strategy and tactics as it was putting together a coaching team and being a guiding light, being a leadership role for the team. That's why he had Beard. That's why he made Nate an assistant coach. Was because of his mind for tactics. And it's not confirmed, that I have scoured the internet, and it
Hmm.
nowhere does anything say that he made, because it looks like Nate is an assistant coach at the end, because he's standing there with him and Beard, with Roy and Beard, wearing the
Mm.
same uniform. It's not super clear. I'm just going
Yeah.
to assume he's not. Um, so for Roy to take over as the manager, yeah, he doesn't have that strategic mind as like Nate has, like you were saying, or like his Beard has, but he's he's grown into being, that's one of the things we have
Yeah.
seen growth and development wise with Roy, is this kind of uh leadership role,
Yeah.
as being just kind of the guiding light for everybody. That's been a great thing to see develop. So I think that's why for me Roy made sense. But again, I'm also not a football fan.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think it makes sense for, like, the way the show is, but it would make 0 sense in the real football world. You would never have a coach like Ted, and you would never have a second coach
yeah.
that, although you might have a coach like Roy, like, from the first part, but you would not go from, like, a Ted to a Roy and not get someone whose tactics are better. Because Ted would be fired, like, a long time ago for not
Yeah.
knowing the game.
The other thing I will say is to go to the Nate's redemption thing. I get where you're coming from as far as like what we've seen with like the depression episode and him developing his relationship with Jade. All of that was great. That's great for redeeming Nate in the audience's eyes. It didn't make a lot of sense for me for the team to be so just unilaterally on board with him coming back,
They
especially
couldn't
when
then.
because we've seen the shit Nate's been going through. None of them have. We've seen the growth and development Nate has had. They haven't, because it hasn't been in the public eye.
Mm.
Um, and especially because just earlier in the season, when they played West Ham, they all saw the video of him tearing up the Believe sign during halftime, and then went out on the field and kicked the living shit out of the other team, not
Still
beating them,
losing.
physically beating the shit out of them, because they were so pissed off and they were
Yeah.
so mad at Nate. And so
Yeah.
for the three people who he had kind of been the shittiest to just show up and be like, "Yeah, no, we're all totally cool with it." I was just kind of like, "Why? Why would you all be so cool with it?" Because as far as they know, not as far as we know, as far as they know, he hasn't changed a bit. They have no way, they don't know, because they haven't seen the shit that we've seen. So it didn't make sense for me, because he hadn't redeemed himself for them.
Mm.
He'd done it for the audience, but not for the team. And so for the team to just suddenly be on board with everything, I was like, you have no reason to. You have no
Yeah.
reason to be on board with this.
Well, one, we don't know if they watched the rest of the video like Ted did. That could be speculation, who knows?
We didn't
But
see it.
that we didn't see that, but I will give Jamie. They forgave Jamie when he came back. They didn't do it right away, but
True.
they learned through Jamie the power of second chances. And Nate was
They
one
did.
of their own, and also, if we go back to season 1, Nate forgave them for treating him badly because Isaac and a bunch of them treated him like shit because of they were trying to impress Jamie, and he forgave them. So it's kind of one of those where he's out of a job. He used to be one of your own, one that you care deeply about. If you like sit down and go, and which would have been great is to actually see it, but it makes sense in my mind that they go, he gave us a second chance. We need to give him a second chance.
I can kind of see that. I think my only pushback on that is with Nate forgiving them in season 1, he had been there with them for them to do better with, so that he had a way, so that basically like he was there to experience them doing better by him, so it was easier to forgive. Same with Jamie. Jamie came back and everybody gave him the cold shoulder the whole time until
Yeah.
they saw him and experienced him doing shit to show he had
But
changed. Nate didn't have that this time. It
yeah, but
all
you learn that kind of, so you learn, see what happened when we gave this cold shoulder and we didn't actually give him a chance, and then they eventually ended up being good. So let's just go straight to the being good. Like, to me, it makes sense, and I guess too, it's just it's the power of second chances, and I think it's because of who these men are and who they've become, that if they were the same men from season 1, they probably it would have taken much longer, but they're the men from this season who have gone through so much change, emotional growth, that that is someone who is very emotionally healthy and mentally healthy would do. And so, and that's what they did. So to me it makes sense.
again, it's one of those, like, all the pieces are there for it to make sense to me. I don't think they, for me, I don't think they put those pieces together the right way for me to totally buy it. I only really I just needed one scene, really. Like, just give me like one scene in an episode of so I know we had the episode at the end where he went and took care of all the kits for Will and left him the
Yeah.
note, and like that was nice. If they had just had it to where everybody came in and saw him in there just like putting shit back together, or even like in this episode where all it really is he has like one 10-second apology with Ted, and it's all, considering how big of a betrayal we had at the end of season 2 and all the nastiness from the first half of this season, I feel like it warranted more than a 10-second "I'm sorry" as far as
it,
storytelling
it,
goes.
it, let us know down below, which side are you on? Are you
Yeah,
cool with the redemption like me and actually enjoy the way his redemption has been set, or are you like Mike? You need more? Let us know
I needed more.
down
Yeah, I needed
below.
more. We've already gone on about this for a while, so we'll move on to the last big arc with this, which is just Rebecca um, deciding that she can just sell the club either 49% or entirely, and just go live her best life again, kind of out of nowhere, because this whole season has been her figuring out how she wants to run the club. Does she want to run it as a fuck you to Rupert, or does she want to run it to just be a good team? That's been the story arc this season. And this episode is then just like, or you could just say fuck it and move on. And up until the last 90 seconds, it's I'm gonna say fuck it and move on. Like, it's not until the last ending montage during the most tear-jerking song on the face of the earth. Every time that song plays, I cry.
She also found her man.
She also, but again, that was one of those
Uh,
like,
uh, uh,
the
an
nameless guy from
actual,
that one episode,
yeah, an actual Flying Dutchman.
an actual. That's funny. I didn't put that together till just now. That's fantastic. Um, but again, like even that, like, is it cool to see her finally like get her man? And but but again, it makes me look back at what we did this season and go, right, but what about all that other shit? Like the stuff with the green matchbook and Sam and all that. I was like, we didn't need that. If she's just gonna end up with this guy, we didn't need the thing with the green matchbook. We didn't need that. We didn't need that. Um, if this is the guy that she's gonna like end up with, we had the episode with her and him together, and it is never brought up again.
Yeah,
Ever.
and I
Never.
rewatched the last 2 up the previous 2 episodes before this one.
Yeah.
Her and Sam were having that spark again, and even Sam, like, turned to "When I wish it was you," and he turns to look, and she smiles, and yeah, so I would say the green matchbook and, like, her and Sam,
Yeah.
even though, like, her with that Dutch guy who we still don't know the name of, was
No, I don't
absolutely
think.
beautiful when they were in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
but and I would've been cool with them ending up together, but I would've liked the stuff with Sam. Now, the selling the club, that didn't bother me as much, although it was kind of a because that's I guess that happens where all the time in sports where, like, you're not even thinking about selling, and then someone says, "Hey, this person wants to make an offer to buy have a minority stake in your club,
Yeah.
and we'll give a bunch of money, which will give opportunity to buy better players and have better facilities and so on and so forth." Um, so that, like, to be like, I wasn't and I guess that's where real football came into the show because there's a lot of times where, like, they're doing stuff and you're just like, "That wouldn't fly in the real football world." But,
Uh, by the way, the guy she met in Holland or Amsterdam or in Amsterdam rather, is just listed as the stranger. He does not have a name. Um, so again, we're just this guy. This is the. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense. It
yeah,
didn't make a lot of sense
so
at all.
but so, like, with me, it made that part made sense of the selling of the club kind of thing, and
Mhm.
then the her attachment um, to Ted and her, like, "If you go, I go," that all made sense to me because
Yeah,
just her and Ted, it's been that journey together from going, "I brought this guy in to ruin the club," and in that, he has made the club so much better and made my life so much better,
yeah,
and if I sell the club and sell a minority share, she could give him an even bigger paycheck, and she said, "I'd still feel like I wouldn't be paying you enough."
yeah,
So, to me, that whole selling of the club part, especially too, because we got it was one of those kind of things that in an episode where they open it and then they solve it all in one episode, so it was very contained to the episode, so to me, I was fine with that. The whole not doing anything with the matchbook or anything with Sam and her ending up with a Flying Dutchman because he doesn't have an actual name, so that's his real
you
name.
know,
Uh,
ladle, 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 lee.
um, okay,
Yeah.
sure, Rebecca.
You know what? Here's what I'll say about the selling the club thing. I just wish they had introduced it in an earlier episode, like that she was thinking about selling it. It just seems like a weird thing to introduce in the finale. I don't have a problem with the idea of her wanting to sell the club, I, because most of the season had just been about her, re- like re-examining like how she wants to do things. Thematically, I get it. Narratively, I just wish it was a concept that had been introduced earlier in the season.
I guess I'm
So
fine with it narratively because then we also had like the Akufu League was something that was an open shut thing in one episode. So
yeah, but
to
that wasn't
me,
the finale.
I know, I know, but to me, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And I didn't mind it being in the last episode because it was an open and shut. If it was I'm thinking about selling the club, and then you never got the answer to it, then
Mhm.
I'd probably feel like you.
Yeah.
But because it was an open and shut thing in the last episode, yeah, that makes sense to me.
I guess the writer in me, I when I see a finale, especially a series finale, my trend of thought is this is not the time for new shit. This is the time, especially because you got a lot of stuff from this season that has not been resolved. Don't introduce new things. Fix what you got. Fix what you got. I loved. Here's the things I loved. Here's the things I loved. I love that Colin got to kiss his fella on
Yeah.
the field. Love that. I loved Trent. I loved Trent getting the feedback on his book, and I love how Beard was so aggressive with his feedback on the book, like the post-it notes, and it's sitting there going derivative. Oh, like this. Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna leave the room. And I
And
love
that Beard's real name is Willis.
this Willis. That's fantastic.
What you talk
Um,
about, Willis?
we should talk
Like
about
we
Willis.
we that happened in the second season. We
It
got his
did.
name in the second season.
Totally missed it. Totally missed it. But I love that Ted's only note was, yeah, it's not about me, because that's such a testament to the show. Is even though the show is called Ted Lasso, it's about so much more than just Ted. Because ever since season two, we've spent so much time with the supporting characters as well as Ted, and it's really been a story about all these people. So I love that moment in there. Um, I love that at Beard's wedding, which was some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. Some of the worst green screening. I mean, wow, like like wow, that was bad. With as cheap and
Yeah.
reliable as European public transit is, y'all couldn't just take the crew there? Okay, whatever. Um,
And and it's a lot closer to London than you would think.
so much closer. That's why they did it there. That was some of the worst green screen I've ever seen, but I love that Danny was there with 2 dates. Because at first he kisses the one girl, and I was like, "Oh, look at him, he finally settled down." Oh, nope, there's the Danny we know. There's the Danny we know.
Because when he remember when he woke up
Up
in
on his
season 2,
death! And he's got
2 girls in his
I
bed?
loved Zorro. Loved
Yeah,
all that callback.
instead of
Loved,
0.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good thing. Sounds good, Zorro. No, it's Zorro, and you see the look on Ted's face. Just, oh, not again. Oh, the mask. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, loved that. Thought that was great. Um, the the other thing I will say is the whole subplot we've had this season with Michelle and Dr. Jake.
Yeah.
Throw it all out.
Yeah.
Complete waste of time. It was a complete waste of
100%.
time, never got resolved. Even by the end of this episode, that is not resolved. There
Yeah.
were and for him to just be there in this episode for the sole purpose of just being a dick,
Yeah.
didn't need it. Didn't
Which
need
was
it.
very, like with the profession that he's in, well, speaking of emotional intelligence, with the profession that he's in, he should have a high emotional intelligence, and he was being a dumbass dude,
Yeah.
and he should know why the woman that he's dating and her child is rooting for this team, even if you don't like the sport. Like,
Yeah.
he,
As a
like,
as a as a relationship counselor, how are you in business?
yeah, and it's just like it goes more to, were you even good at your job? Because like we get from Ted, not so much, and then you ended up with her, and were you just trying to get in her pants the whole time, kind of thing?
We'll never
And
know.
we'll never know. You literally throw this whole subplot out. It makes no sense because by the end of it, Michelle's like laughing and celebrating her stuff with Ted and kind of like giving her man the side eye that she's with now. So really like she's giving off the physical acting of, yeah, I'm kind of over this dude already, or I'm not happy with this dude, and but I still like, and it's kind of just like, yeah, you could have just ixnayed all of that
Yeah.
and then left an open end, a good open end for when like Ted shows up and she's at the door. Do they get back together? Do they not? You have that be a conversation. That would have been a good open end thing without ever having to involve the therapist.
Yeah, of just have an open end of, "Hey, I'm back in town now, and we're gonna see." and we're trying to see if we can work this thing out. Like when I think back to when that was first introduced in the first few episodes, I was like, oh, this season is going to be him coming to terms with Michelle being in a new relationship and moving on from the marriage, and he hasn't yet, because there's the thing where like he asks Sassy out like to actually go on an actual
Yeah.
date, and they talk about how no, like you're kind of a mess, Ted, and then we never address it again. It's never addressed again. It's never brought up again. The end of that episode is him, telling her over a video call, I have problems with the fact that you're dating our marriage counselor. It really upsets me.
And
Never,
then bye.
never addressed again.
Yeah.
A couple episodes later, they're going on a trip to Paris and he's all paranoid and hanging out with his son and all that. And that's it. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. But he doesn't address those insecurities about their relationship. He just addresses his insecurities about her getting married again, not
Yeah.
about problems he has with her dating their marriage therapist.
Right.
It's never brought up again. And then we don't see them again until this episode where he's just a dick. And
Yeah.
I it just
Yeah.
I felt cheated. I felt cheated out what could have been a really interesting exploration of Ted's
Yeah.
character, development of his character. They talk so much about mental health and emotional health in this season, especially. Would have been a great exploration that would have been on
Mhm.
theme, and
Mhm.
nothing.
Never. Where, like, we were able to get that whole stuff with, like, in season 2 with him and his
Mhm.
father
Oh
and him
yeah.
exploring that, and the fact that we were not given that with this topic in season 3.
Well, especially when you consider that last episode was the episode with him and his mom.
Yeah.
The stuff with him and his emotion with his dad was over several episodes in season 2. Several episodes. This was one episode. And it was
Mm.
and it like, we had never had any indication over the first 2 seasons whatsoever that there were issues with him and his mom. Ever.
Yeah. Right.
She shows up and he's just like, "Oh, fuck. I
I'm
don't
glad
like my
she's
mom.
here.
I'm mad at my mom." And we're like, "Since when?" And it's resolved that episode. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay." Don't get me wrong. The thing at the end with the "thank you, but fuck you" thing was
Yeah. That
was
he took from
excellent.
Jamie.
Yeah, that was excellent. But
And
out
the
of
thank
nowhere,
you, only thank you on the note,
that was very good. It was very
that was
good.
very good, that was
Also,
very
sunflower bread. Kinda wanna try that. Sounds delicious. Um,
it can we also talk about the "let's have fun with all the people that ship Ted and Rebecca" at the
I
beginning of
was
the
so mad.
episode?
I was so mad. I was like, in a fun way, I was like, "Stop doing this to me. You know what? I'm glad you're ending so you can stop doing this to me."
And and the funny part of, "Are we gonna talk about this?" And he means about him leaving, but we are like, "Oh, you guys fucked. Are you wanna talk about it in the morning?" Because like, that morning conversation, nope. She and then Beard and his girl come down.
Ooh, ooh, way more beard than I ever needed to see. Uh, but also the cleaning lady, I'll start in the guest rooms. No, 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 no.
"Those ropes aren't to throw away."
Which leads me to believe that the reason Rebecca and Ted look so rough is I feel like Beard and Jane were keeping them up. Uh, yeah. I I feel bad. I feel bad because I'm dunking hard on this episode and by proxy this season because the finale did such a bad job of capping this season and by proxy the show that it takes away some of the love I had for the rest of this season. I love the episodes like on their own in a bubble.
Mhm.
On a bubble, I thought the episodes were very good, but because it ultimately goes nowhere and is never going to go and is not going to go anywhere because this is it. It leaves me feeling kind of salty about the season as a whole because ultimately you know any issues I had with narrative in this season can all be resolved in the finale. It's like, well, the story seems like it's not going anywhere, but I'll know better once I get to the end. We said the same thing with Mandalorian season 3. The Jack Black Lizzo episode feels like filler, but until you get to but you can't really say it's filler until you get to the end and realize it actually didn't have any bearing on anything. But you don't know that until you get to the end of the season. So there was a lot of things introduced in this season and the show in general that I was like, I'm not going to get too frustrated with these until I see how it ends. Then
Yeah.
I'll know whether or not this was as big a problem as it could have been. And for a lot of things, they still were an issue because they didn't get resolved.
I guess for me, I've thoroughly enjoyed this season. This is my least favorite episode of the season.
It was my least favorite episode of the show.
And there's stuff in it that I do not like, stuff in it that I'm okay with. There's stuff in it that I do enjoy. Like it I liked that we got to see Colin kiss this fella, even though in real life when there's a pitch invasion, the team all goes and they create a barrier around the
Yeah,
team and the entrance so the team is not out there with the fans celebrating. Like the
yeah,
fans are celebrating on the pitch and the team is like safe behind a bunch of security guards, or even like they go inside. But they have to be like a movie where like in the movie you see the fans and the team all celebrating together. So I I liked that. I liked the whole everyone kept a piece of the believe sign.
love that. Love.
Loved that so much. I just thought even with the Jamie and Roy stuff, again, I said like it was such good scene work and good acting that even though I didn't like what was going on,
Yeah,
like I was like, man, this is good, like acting wise and scene work.
yeah.
And then I still love Jamie, and even Jamie made me think in his scene work, I was like, before I've been all Keely Roy, but honestly, the way like Jamie's acting here, if they would have ended up together, I would have been fine with that. Like, if
Eh,
it would have been Keely Jamie, like that's how like good the scene work was with me that it was making me go, huh, because of his growth. Um,
I love that Jamie reconnected with his dad
yeah,
because we
uh,
saw at the end of the last episode that his dad was actually he hadn't heard his dad from forever. So his dad was in rehab,
yeah,
and I love that his dad had taken those steps. That getting
yeah,
the shit kicked, that having that bad night with Beard and getting punched by Jamie and thrown out by Roy and Beard, um, knocked something loose, and that
yeah.
Jamie got to reconnect with him. I loved that.
Yeah,
I really did.
I did too. And you really know why Jamie was the way he was at the beginning. For both of his parents, because like he's a mama's boy too.
He
Like
is.
and
And
when
as
his
and
when
as a mama's boy, I love that we got to meet his mama. Is the relationship a little weird? Absolutely. But
you sexy little baby.
but also I love Roy Roy whenever he looks at Jamie's mom, one for the road.
Yeah, it was one of the what would have been really funny is if Jamie ended up with Roy's sister and Roy ended up with Jamie's mom, even though Jamie already had a
Yeah.
mom, already had a partner. Like,
I also love that Jamie's stepdad is just kind of like, this is my life. This is the
yep,
life. But also you get the feeling of as much as she loves her son, she loves that man too. Because the man can
yeah.
cook. The man clearly loves to cook and bake. And as a man
And
that loves to cook and
she was clinging on to him too during
yeah,
the game, kind of like and you see too, not only was it a like, "Oh, this is my life," but he even too was like, "Hey, Jamie," like, with a smile
yeah,
on his face, so, like, just good stepdad.
good stepdad. He's a good stepdad. He went to the Pedro Pascal school of being a stepdad. Uh, so so yeah, this was an episode. I hate saying that about a series finale. I hate being so
Yeah,
middle of the road to just kind of genuinely disappointed with the finale of a show. Not even just a season of a show that I love so much. Um, it bums me out. It really
yeah.
bums me out because it's like, man, this is the kind of like with like the How I
You
Met Your
allow
Mother.
yourself to feel too much.
Yeah, maybe need to close off my emotions. But How I Met Your Mother was a show that I was wildly invested in. I can't watch it anymore. Like, I can't go back and rewatch it because I know how it ends, and it makes it harder for me to enjoy it on rewatch. And
Yeah.
I'm worried because I haven't tried to rewatch Ted Lasso yet. I'm worried that I'm gonna have the same feeling that if I ever go back and try to rewatch Ted Lasso, if I'm gonna get less enjoyment out of it because I know how it ends and I don't like how it ends.
Mm. To me, I've definitely had that like with other shows where the ending makes me just not want to watch like or even with movies, like if you have a trilogy of movies and the last movie you just absolutely fucking hate, you don't ever want to see that trilogy of movies again.
Yeah.
Guess in the write in the comments if you can guess which trilogy of movies I'm talking about. Mhm. Uh, but, um, to me, I feel like I will go back and watch the show and love the show just as much, and even though the ending was less than was I was unsatisfied, I'm o I'm okay, and I think too, because Disney Plus has trained us about shitty endings or just unsatisfying endings. The fact that something ended and wasn't satisfying, I'm like, yep, that's just been my life
That's
these
par for
past
the
few
course.
years. Yeah, so
Yeah.
where to me, I guess I'm not getting as emotionally upset about it because I'm just used to it.
I should be used to it. For me, I'm tired of it. And I was like, if
Yeah,
there's one show that I should be able to rely on, it's Ted Lasso. Like, and I think that's partially why I'm as upset as I am. And maybe it's my own hang up, but like, Ted
the
Lasso said it.
showrunner of the first 2 seasons that was show running with Jason Sudeikis is not here
He's
for
not, and
season 3.
I'm wondering how much that had to do with it, and also just because Ted Lasso set its own bar very high.
Mhm.
So my expectations for this finale were higher than they have been for other shows because again, it's like you have built yourselves this wonderful little bubble of goodness.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just keep that going and for them to miss as spectacularly as they did with this finale, it's disappointing.
Mm.
It's like I expected better, and usually I'm all about checking, I'm tempering expectations. If there's one show I shouldn't have to temper my expectations for, it's Ted Lasso.
Mm.
It's Obi-Wan screaming down from the hilltop, "You were the chosen one! You were supposed to bring balance, not leave it in darkness." Like,
Uh,
and that's
it
kinda how I feel.
I think it's funny, and this is just going to things in general, which we're getting a little off topic here,
Yeah.
but the fact that so much movies and TV shows have either are not or end in an unsatisfying manner that I'm so used to it and I like my expectation I did not only tamper it, I have low or I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't allow myself to get too excited about things anymore. Like I'll say like, "Oh, I'm excited for this," but it's not in the same vein of like a few years ago when I'd be like, "I'm so freaking excited for this." Um that I think it has allowed me to enjoy things more than both you and Boggs, or, like, just be okay with things is because I, like, don't expect anything.
I'm usually very forgiving. That's the thing is I'm usually very forgiving of a lot of things. This was this was the one where I was like I say this is my least favorite episode of the entire show. I can't think of another episode that I just genuinely didn't like. Like
Mm,
like when you try to think like, other than this episode, like name an episode of Ted Lasso I don't like. I don't know. I've yet to have an episode where I'm like, I didn't like that one. This is a show that's always been a 10 out of 10 for me. This show's been knocking
yeah.
homers, to use the wrong sports analogy, It's been hitting home runs since the first episode.
All those
So
touchdowns.
all those touchdowns. So I think that's why I'm so upset. It's just kind of like, man, you just had to get through one more episode. You just had to do. You've done great. You just had to do one more episode, and the one episode you fumble again, to use the wrong sports analogy, much like Ted. But the one you fumble is the show's finale. God, fumble the midseason. Nobody cares
But
about the midseason.
how would you feel if they announce a season 4, but it's no Ted, like they or it's a new series name, or they give it a new name because it's not the Ted Lasso because he's no longer in it, but it's the same, almost all the same cast of characters that we have grown to love in the Ted
Except,
Lasso world.
except Sam, because Sam's in Nigeria now. Um,
No, that's international football. He's playing for the Nigerian national team.
oh, I thought
They
that was
still no,
I
no, no,
thought he
no,
just
no.
went to the,
They
oh,
they
okay.
they
Gotcha,
just
gotcha.
go off and play for their international team, and then they go back to their club team.
Okay, I didn't know that's what he was doing because I was like,
Ye
"Oh, well, we've already had the international game, so this is just
No,
him."
I mean, there's international games all the time. No,
I
but
don't know, but again, that wasn't explained to me. They didn't
this is
explain it.
you don't need explanation. He has the Nigeria,
No, like the
thing.
fact that they do like multiple of the international games and all of that. It's not,
You don't
but
need that explained to you.
I do because I don't watch football. Not everyone who watches the show knows football or soccer. So if you can't just assume everybody knows everything,
No, no,
but
no,
also
but
again, if you're
that
gonna,
is, but it's not just a one-time thing. Like people, I
but
think,
I don't know that.
yeah, yeah, but I think most people like that know about, or most people that watch the show, if they see them going off and they see a Nigeria logo, not a see, this is an Inter Miami
Okay,
logo here on the kit. If if I was wearing a USA kit and it said USA, I'm playing for USA. They don't need to explain that, oh, he's playing for internationally if it says Nigeria on the
you
thing. You
do for
just
someone
you
who
get it.
doesn't know this shit.
No, no,
I
but
don't
like
know this
use
shit.
it's context clues. Goes when he's wearing the
They're
Richmond,
very
he's playing
poor
for.
context clues.
No, they're
Because
not.
here's the thing. If
No,
you're
they're
gonna do that, cool. Don't do it in a 5-second shot in a musical montage at the end of the
no.
episode.
The
Have
the
it be its own.
reason the reason why it's perfect the way it is because the whole 3 seasons he's had that 1994 World Cup Nigeria team, and
Yeah.
his dream has always been to play for Nigeria. And so in the summertime, like for example, like for European, not MLS here, European football has pretty much ended. Like their club team season is over. Summertime, people are going off and playing. So, like for example, the US is going to play in Nations League and Gold Cup this summer. Summertime is usually when you go play international football. So you don't need to know that. But to see him in a montage, he made it to the Nigeria team. He made it to the Nigeria team. We got to see him there with the Nigeria kit. That's not telling us he's going to play for another team. That's telling us he's going to play for his country.
Right. But because they didn't set up like how, like whether or not, like how much time had passed, there weren't enough context clues for me to put together what exactly was happening. It's just, here's Sam in this uniform and we're done. That was
And
it.
I think too, and this is not to knock you,
Yeah, it is, but
some
go
of
ahead.
the context clues in this show through all 3 seasons are not for fans like you. They're for
I'm
fans like
aware
me
of that.
and other fans who watch soccer slash football,
And you know what
because
happens when those
there's
come
been,
up? I go, I don't understand what's happening.
yeah, because, and that's for us. It's the same thing that when other stuff happens, it's like, oh, that's for the nerds. That's not for, like in the Star Trek movies when they do something
Sure.
that's for you. That's not for me. That's
Sure.
for you in the context for you because you've watched the shows, not for me who's
But
never
that's
seen a
why I'm
single
saying I
episode.
didn't understand this because
Yeah, but it's not bad writing or anything.
I'm not saying it's bad writing. I'm saying there's not enough context clues for me to. Again, it's the finale. I
Yeah, it's
shouldn't be
fine.
having to guess what's going on.
It's
Like
it's
like
it's not
I
that
also
big of a deal. I need you to tamper it down with this one.
I was fine until you started telling me how wrong I was. Then I got pissed off. I would have liked to have had some time to
Oh, no,
celebrate
I was
with
just
Sam.
correcting yeah, I was just correcting saying that he's not in Nigeria. Like, he's still with Richmond.
I would have liked to
That's
have
what
had
no.
some time to celebrate that with Sam, though. Like, because it had been such a big thing for him, for it to get, to use a term I learned from watching the show, relegated to a 5-second scene in a musical montage at the end. I was like, oh, it kind of would have been nice to like see him get the letter or get the phone call, like, hey,
I
Dick
don't think it
Bag.
was needed.
I would have liked to, because I want to celebrate with Sam because I love
I
Sam.
know. But I
So I
think
want to
it's
celebrate
in the
with Sam.
same vein, like, you see Jamie connecting with his father in that montage you're seeing. So, yeah, it would, in a perfect world, we would actually have real scenes of those and have that all being closed out. But the fact that we're getting so many celebratory stuff, like Jamie reconnecting with his father, like Sam making it to the Nigeria team, so what all of that in the montage, it works. It really works because you're like, okay, these are the other little breadcrumbs that we've put throughout. No, we haven't answered everything, but we're answering things here in this little montage. Look at all the like stuff that they're gaining, which is what a montage is for. So
I'm just saying
it works.
we could have just not done the shitty Stonehenge wedding and had more time with Sam
I
because
mean, it
because
literally would have been the same amount of time.
I don't
It would
care.
have been,
I
eh,
really didn't
oh
like the
no.
Stonehenge wedding. I really didn't like the Stonehenge wedding.
Literally, the Stonehenge wedding was also part of the montage too.
I know I didn't
Like,
like it. I didn't need it to be because A, it looked like shit, and also like that is such a toxic relationship. I don't need it being celebrated. Him and Jane have such a toxic relationship. It's like, no, don't end this with them getting a fair. They're so
and
bad for
she's
each other.
pregnant.
And she's pregnant. And oh god, a little half beard, half Jane in the world. That's so the show is about the beginning of the end of the world. Got it. Okay. Because the offspring of Beard and Jane is going to bring about the end of the world.
The Antichrist.
It's the most chaotic individual, or it's going to be, or because they're both so chaotic, their child is going to just be perfect. It's going to
And
be
be like,
the human embodiment of perfection. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and also I like to the the way that Danny Rojas apologized to Zorro.
Yeah, giving him the mask, and
Yeah,
it was great. It was so nice. That
because
mask was good.
that was weird. Although it happens
It
where
does.
where you have players who play club soccer for the same team and are with each other day in and day out, and then they go play for their international teams and they're now playing against each other. So
You're
because
my
like
smart enemy.
where like that's happened where like the US played England in the last World Cup, and all
Mhm.
the American players that were playing in the Premier League, like, they were getting shit from the English players and they were giving shit back, and they were talking like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat you," like, kind of just joking about it, and it ended up in a 0-0 tie. Although
Oops.
no, no, but and guess what? The US played better than England in that game.
You're gonna get us in so much trouble.
I mean, it's true. Hey, England has never beaten the United States in the World Cup. In 1950, we beat them 1-0. In 2010, it was 1-1. And in 2022, it was 0-0. So we have that over England. They've never beaten us.
They've also never beaten us in a war either. Anyway,
And even to go to when we won, the English newspaper said greatest soccer disaster. So they called it soccer too. So
uh-huh. Boom. Basically, we rule. In this one instance, we're the best. Just in this one singular, tiny, microscopic instance, we rule.
So our women's team is better. Which that's the other thing. Richmond's about to get a
They're
women's
about to get
team.
a women's team sponsored by Keeley's company, whatever it's called.
KJPR.
Thank you. Um, Barbara got her blood when what's his nuts got the soccer ball to the face that
She's like,
McAdoo kicked right through the net, which was
yeah.
excellent. Excellent.
Oh, that was great too, because you think that he
Oh, I thought he did. I was like, you got to be shitting me.
is like, no, he
I
hit
think
it
that's
so
the most.
hard.
I think this is the most actual soccer we've seen in any episode this whole show. Honestly,
Yeah,
a
which
lot of it.
I did rewatch. Like I said, I rewatched the previous 2 episodes
Mhm.
beforehand, and when Jamie scores against, Man City and we don't actually see him score, the way that he's jumping in the scene, no way could he have actually kicked his leg to actually score the ball the way he was, like,
No.
side jumping.
I noticed that when I first watched it, I was like, that kick doesn't make sense. I'm gonna let it go, but that kick doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I thought it the first time, and then I was rewatching, and I was like, "Yeah, no, he did not kick that ball."
I love how when McAdoo goes to kick the goal, the penalty shot, we cut over to the dog, now no longer a puppy, and I was just like, oh no, not again.
And the dog hides its head
And
behind
he's
the
got a
leg.
helmet on. Oh, again, there was good things. There was good things in this episode.
I mean, the dog's like, "At least it's not Danny Rojas."
It's not Danny Rojas. I thought I was so sure they were about to start just handing the ball around to each other because nobody wanted
Me
to take
too.
the pick.
I thought so too.
Yeah. Also, what a redemption for their former manager all of a sudden. And fuck Rupert on so many different levels. We haven't
Yeah.
said that yet this episode. Fuck Rupert.
I
And
mean,
we kind of predicted it the last couple episodes. His life is crumbling around him and he's fucked. He's out.
yeah. Although I wouldn't count it much as a redemption for the former manager, he's still an asshole.
Oh, not maybe redemption is the wrong word. Just what a full circle, I guess.
And not only that, that he was still wearing those short shorts.
Yeah, it ends with his story in the show ends with like it began with his balls hanging out.
Starts and
Uh,
ends.
I'll
What
say
is
it
it,
was
the
a little
George Lucas quote? It's like, what? It rhymes.
what?
The George Lucas quote when he was talking about storytelling and it rhyming.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I
Uh,
have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard that.
if
Maybe I
you
have and don't
know what
remember
I'm
it.
talking about, put it in the comments if
Okay,
you're
link in
still
the comments.
watching.
I think it was a little bit of a redemption for the Oak because he comes in and he's like, no, I'm not. It's like I'm playing this game fair. I'm not gonna have them target
Yeah.
Jamie just to win. And then so there because maybe again,
Because I
I think
think,
redemption is the wrong word. It's
yeah,
just
because
character development.
I think that's the way he would have coached. He probably coached that way normally. He's not gonna.
Maybe
Most coaches, even
we
if
didn't
they're
see any of
ass,
it, so
yeah, most coaches, even if they're assholes, they're not gonna target another player and purposely tell someone to harm someone else.
yeah.
They're
I
just
do
not.
I do kind of wonder why he picked that guy. I think maybe just as a screw you to
Um,
Richmond, maybe. I don't know.
no, I don't. I think it was literally he was available.
Who's available. Yeah, it makes sense. Um,
A lot of times when you get to the end of the season, there's not really many options
that's true.
for new coaches. Like Leeds got Big Sam Allardyce
Yeah.
for their last 4 games.
Yeah.
You have no idea what I just
Not a
said.
clue. Not a clue. Not a clue at all. Look, it is what it is. I would just I hate to end a show by saying, especially the finale, that is what it is. It's not, you hope you come on here to talk about the finale of a show and look back fondly, and instead we're just kind of looking back at it frustrated and underwhelmed and with a big old here we go again with these not sticking the landing finales. Hey, Ted Lasso.
Send all your love to this guy over here.
No, I'm fucking hurt. My heart is broken. Wow,
I
man.
think too my heart has already been broken by football this past
That's true. So
because
you're just like, fuck all of it.
my team got relegated,
Oh no.
so they'll
Oh,
play,
I know what that
which was
means now.
which is funny because, you know what I laughed at? And it's probably I was like, I've never had this conversation with Mike, but this feels like a conversation that would happen with Mike about the championship and the
Oh, no,
Champions
I
League.
was so on board with Ted. I was like, "That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Makes no sense. It's all about money. That makes sense." Okay, yeah.
Yes.
No, I was very much Ted in that
Because
conversation,
they were like, "Oh, we were in the championship last year, which was bad, but we've made it to the Champions League this year, which
which is
is
good.
good."
That makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
1,000% Ted Lasso in that
Yeah,
conversation,
yeah.
and then
So my team, Leeds United, will be playing in the Championship, which is the second division of England, next year. Not in the Champions League,
not in the Champions League. Gotcha.
but in the Championship.
Oh my god, it's so confusing. It's so
Which
but hey,
Boggs'
yeah,
team is not even in the Championship. They're in League One, which is the third division of England because they got into money trouble
but
last year.
so it's the third, but it's called League One. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
It's the Premier League, the Championship, League One, League Two.
Thank you guys so much for watching Off the Wall. This has been great. We've enjoyed watching Ted Lasso this season. I got nothing else. Look, if please comment away down below. Tell us which side of the argument you're on as far as Nate's redemption goes. How you felt about this season overall, how you felt about this finale overall, about the show overall. We'd love to hear from you guys. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than just happy Pride Month, everybody. Let's let's we'll end on something positive. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful month. Um, uh, be nice to each other and support the WGA. Pay your fucking writers. With that being said, we'll see you guys again here next time on the wall. Bye. Oh, much like the finale of this show, this review was a fucking train wreck.